Welcome to Space Thrill HFY, where humans and aliens clash, love, and rise in stories beyond the stars. Tonight, witness the tale of a Vulpine girl who swore she was not a pet, yet destiny bound her to a human soldier carrying both guilt and hope. In the fire of war, betrayal, and survival, they must fight not only for their lives, but for the freedom of two worlds. Stay with us till the end. Drop a comment to share your thoughts, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join Space Thrill HFY for more thrilling human versus alien sagas. The Vulpine girl pressed her ears flat against her head as the ground shook beneath her. Smoke rose from the broken hills, and the silver sky of Archeon split open with fire. War had arrived. Not just any war, but one that no one had expected. The enemy came without warning, like shadows swallowing the dawn. Soldiers in steel suits shouted orders, their helmets glowing red in the haze. Giant machines stomped across the land, crushing the ancient stones of her village. She had seen battles before, but this was something else. The air smelled of burning metal, the kind that stayed in your lungs and refused to leave. And in the middle of the chaos, she saw him. A human. He was not dressed like the others. No heavy armor, no glowing weapons, just a black jacket torn at the shoulder and dirt across his face. His blue eyes locked on hers as if time itself had frozen. He wasn't shouting, he wasn't running, he was just standing there, calm in the middle of hell. Her tail lashed nervously. Why was he here? Humans were rare in this sector, and the ones who came were usually merchants or thieves. But this one looked different. His stance was steady, his hands ready. The firelight danced in his gaze, and it made her heart pound, though she did not understand why. "Run," he said quietly. His voice was low, almost lost in the thunder of explosions. She should have run. She should have listened, but instead she froze. A machine turned toward them, its cannon charging with a whine that made her fur bristle. The glow brightened. Death was seconds away. She whispered a prayer, her claws digging into the dirt. Then the human moved. He leapt forward, faster than her eyes could follow. The cannon fired, but the blast never reached her. The human had pulled her down, his body shielding hers as the beam tore through the rocks behind them. Dust filled her mouth, choking her, but she was alive. Alive because of him. When the dust cleared, he was still holding her. His grip was strong but not cruel. She tried to push him away, her pride refusing to let a stranger touch her. "I'm not your pet," she protested, her voice sharp. His lips curved into the smallest smile. "Didn't say you were." Another blast shook the ground, closer this time. He stood, pulling her with him, and before she realized what was happening, she was running at his side. The battlefield stretched like a nightmare. Broken towers, burning fields, the cries of the fallen. Every step felt heavier, every breath harder. Yet the human never slowed. He guided her through the wreckage with a soldier's precision, ducking under debris, weaving between bursts of fire. She wanted to ask him who he was, why he was here, but the words died in her throat. They reached the edge of the valley, where the forest still stood untouched. Shadows of tall trees loomed ahead, promising shelter. Just before they entered, she looked back. The land of her people was vanishing in flames. Her chest ached and she wanted to scream, but only silence came out. Once inside the trees, the noise dimmed. The air was cooler, the light softer. Her legs shook and she finally collapsed against a trunk. The human crouched beside her, scanning the woods like a hunter. Even here, his eyes were sharp, alert. "Why did you save me?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her attempt to sound firm. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "Because you were still breathing." Her ears flicked. That was all? No grand reason, no hidden motive, just that? She wanted to laugh, but instead, she felt something strange stirring inside her chest. The war was tearing her world apart, yet here she was, alive, because of this human. She wanted to hate him, to push him away, to remind him again that she wasn't some pet to be protected. But her body betrayed her. When he sat down against the tree, she found herself sliding closer, her tail brushing the ground near his knee. And then, without even realizing it, she climbed onto his lap. Her pride screamed at her to stop, but the warmth of his presence pulled her in. She whispered again, softer this time, almost to herself. "I'm not your pet." He didn't push her away. He didn't chain her. He just let her rest there, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. The forest was quiet, but in that silence a storm was building. Neither of them knew it yet, but their meeting on this night would change the course of the war. Because sometimes the smallest protest, the smallest claim, could ignite a story greater than empires. And for the first time since the sky had burned, the Vulpine girl felt something other than fear. She felt a dangerous, unstoppable hope. The forest was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that never felt safe. Every rustle of the leaves, every snap of a branch, made the Vulpine girl's ears twitch. She was pressed against the human's chest, her breath uneven, her tail still curled around his knee. He hadn't spoken since they stopped. His gaze kept sweeping the trees, sharp and cold like a blade. She hated how calm he was. Didn't he feel the fear? Didn't he hear the machines searching in the distance? The war hadn't ended, it was hunting them. Finally, she found her voice.
"Who are you?"
The human didn't answer at once. He tilted his head, listening to the faint hum of metal far away. Then in a low voice he said, "Name's Ryan, just a soldier who walked off the wrong battlefield." "Just a soldier?" She scoffed. "You move like no soldier I've seen." He looked at her then, and his eyes seemed older than the stars above them. "Because I've fought wars that were never written in your people's books." Her breath caught. His words carried weight but no pride. It was not a boast. It was a wound. Before she could ask more, the forest floor trembled. A deep metallic thud echoed closer. Giant machines. Her fur bristled. Her people's hunters never stood a chance against those things. Rian rose to his feet in one motion, pulling her with him. His grip was strong, steady like a wall that wouldn't fall. "They're sweeping the area. We can't stay," she pulled back. "This is my land. My family, my people, they're still out there." His jaw tightened, but he didn't shout. Instead, he crouched, looking into her eyes. "Listen to me. If you run out there now, you'll be ash before you take 10 steps. You want to find them? You survive first." Her claws dug into the bark of the tree. She wanted to argue. She wanted to claw his face for daring to stop her. But his words, they cut with truth. The machines drew nearer, their searchlights cutting through the trees like burning suns. She could hear the voices of the armored men, cold, mechanical, like they weren't even human anymore. Ryan's hand touched the ground. He whispered, "We move when the lights cross.
Stay low, stay silent."
If you make a sound, we both die." She swallowed hard and nodded. They moved like shadows. Ryan guided her with impossible precision, weaving between roots and fallen logs, ducking just as beams swept past. At one point, she nearly stepped on dry leaves, but his hand shot back, pressing her foot still before it cracked. How had he seen it in the dark? They slipped deeper until the forest grew thicker. The hum of the machines faded behind them. For a moment, it felt like they had escaped. She almost sighed in relief, then snap. Her ears twitched. That sound wasn't from her. Or him. They froze. From the darkness ahead, eyes glowed green. Low, growling voices rumbled. Shapes moved between the trees, slender, tall, with claws that shimmered in the moonlight. Not machines. Not soldiers. Something worse. Rian pushed her gently behind him, his stance shifting. He didn't reach for a weapon because he carried none. His hands curled into fists, the creatures stepped forward. She recognized them now, shadowhounds. Beasts released by the invaders to hunt down survivors. Their jaws could snap bone like twigs, and once they caught a scent, they never stopped. Her throat tightened. "There's too many." Ryan's voice was low, steady. "Then we don't run." The first hound lunged. In one movement, Ryan sidestepped, slammed his elbow into its neck, and twisted. The beast dropped without a sound. Another charged, and his boot met its jaw with a crack that echoed through the trees. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. He fought like a storm, fluid, brutal, precise. Every strike was final. Every motion wasted nothing, but there were more, too many. Shadows circled, eyes glowing, snarls filling the air. Her heart pounded. She wanted to help, to fight. But she had no blade, no strength compared to these monsters. Then she remembered the dagger hidden in her sash. Her father had given it to her, more ceremonial than practical. Still, her hand gripped it tight. She stepped forward. "I'm not hiding." Ryan glanced at her, and for the first time his eyes softened. "Not pity, respect, then stand close," he said. "And don't miss." The hounds howled, and the forest erupted in chaos. Claws flashed. Teeth snapped. The girl's blade found one throat. Warm blood sprang across her hands. Ryan's fists crushed another's skull. She cried out, fear and fury mixing inside her chest. He moved beside her like a shield, striking, blocking, pulling her back when danger grew too close. It felt endless. A blur of light, shadow, and death. At last, silence. The last hound hit the dirt, twitching once before it stilled. She stood trembling, her dagger shaking in her grip, her breath ragged. Her body was spattered with blood, some hers, most not. She looked at Rian, chest heaving. He was calm. Only a cut across his cheek showed he had even been touched. His eyes met hers, steady and unshaken. "You fought well," he said, her throat tightened. No one had ever told her that before. Not her father, not her brothers, not her people. She didn't know why. But tears stung her eyes, and in that moment, surrounded by corpses and shadows, she realized something terrifying. This human was more dangerous than the war itself. The forest smelled of blood. The ground was littered with broken branches, claw marks, and the bodies of the shadow hounds. The Vulpine girl's chest still rose and fell quickly, her dagger slick in her trembling grip. Ryan stood among the corpses, calm, his breath steady. He didn't look like a survivor. He looked like something the war itself had shaped. The night was quiet again, but it wasn't peace. It was the silence before another storm. She turned to him, her ears flicking nervously. You shouldn't be alive. No human could fight like that." His eyes met hers, unflinching. "Do you want me dead?" Her throat closed. "No," she whispered, and the truth scared her. But before more could be said, a voice cracked through the air. "Over here." Her heart froze. Soldiers, the invaders. Searchlights broke the trees. Armor clanged. Voices barked orders. They had been found. Rian grabbed her wrist, pulling her into the undergrowth. They ran again, feet pounding the earth, ducking beneath roots and thorns. Her lungs burned, her legs begged to stop. But his pace never slowed. He moved like he knew this forest better than she did. They reached a ravine, deep and wide. Below, water rushed with a roar. Her ears flattened. "We can't." Ryan didn't wait. He leapt, landing on the other side with ease. He turned back, his hand outstretched. "Jump," she shook her head. "It's too far." "Jump," he repeated, his voice sharp, commanding. For a heartbeat, she hesitated. Then she pushed off the edge. Air tore at her fur, her heart screamed. Then his hand caught hers, pulling her safely across. She stumbled into him, her body crashing against his chest. For a moment, their faces were close. Too close. His eyes were steady, hers wide with panic. She pushed away quickly, her cheeks burning. The voices behind grew louder. Soldiers reached the ravine, but none dared leap. Instead, they raised their weapons. Beams of fire scorched across the gap, striking trees around them. Ryan pulled her deeper into the forest. Shots blazed, branches splintered, but none touched him. He weaved through the chaos with impossible precision, pulling her with him like a shadow that never broke. Finally, the noise faded. The beams stopped. The soldiers didn't follow. They slowed to a stop near an ancient ruin, stone walls cracked and covered in moss. Statues of forgotten gods stared with hollow eyes. The girl's tail lashed nervously. This place was forbidden, cursed by her people's legends, but Ryan walked inside without hesitation. She hissed, "We can't stay here." "The spirits," he cut her off. "The only spirits here are bones and dust. Sit, rest, we'll be safe for now." She wanted to argue, but exhaustion won. Her legs shook as she sank against a broken pillar. For a long time, there was only silence. Then she spoke. "Why do they want us dead? Why burn my village? Why release those hounds?" Ryan's jaw tightened. He looked away, staring at the cracked statues. "Because this war isn't about your land. It's about control, about making your people kneel." Her ears flattened. "You talk like you know them, like you fought them before." He said nothing. The silence cut deeper than words. She narrowed her eyes. "Who are you really, human? Why were you in my village when the machines came? Why do you fight like them but protect me?" Ryan finally turned, and his expression made her fur prickle. It was not anger. It was something colder. "Because once," he said quietly, "I was one of them." Her breath caught. The dagger slipped in her grip. "You're lying," but his eyes told her he wasn't. He stepped closer, voice low. "I wore their armor. I followed their orders. I destroyed villages like yours. Until I saw what it truly meant." Her chest heaved. She wanted to scream, to claw at his face, to call him traitor. But another part of her, the part that remembered his hand pulling her across the ravine, his body shielding hers from fire, stayed silent. "You killed my people," she whispered. "Yes," he said, voice steady, "and I'll carry that weight until I die. But I won't kill for them again." Her claws dug into the stone. Rage warred with something she couldn't name. She wanted to hate him. She wanted to despise him. But her heart remembered the warmth of his lap, the way he fought beside her. the way he looked at her with respect no one else ever had. Her voice shook. Why protect me? His answer was simple. Because I refused to let them win again. Before she could reply, a sharp whistle split the air. Not from the soldiers. Something else. Rian's head snapped up. His hand went to the ground, feeling vibrations. They found us, her ears twitched. But the soldiers, not soldiers, he said grimly. Hunters. Your own kind, her stomach dropped. The whistle was a signal she knew too well. Her people's scouts, loyal to the elders. They had been told to kill any who resisted, even their own. She backed against the pillar. They won't listen to me. They'll say I betrayed them by standing with you. Ryan's eyes hardened. Then we don't let them take us. Shadows moved at the ruin's edge. Figures with bows drawn, cloaks blending into the night. Her people, her kin, their arrows aimed at her heart. One voice shouted, "Step away from the human or die with him." Her chest tightened. Tears filled her eyes. They weren't her enemies, they were her brothers, her cousins, her blood. But their eyes were cold, poisoned by fear and orders. Her heart twisted. If she stayed with Ryan, she would be branded traitor forever. If she stepped away, she would lose the only one who had fought for her, the only one who saw her as more than a helpless girl. The choice tore at her soul. Ryan's voice was calm, almost a whisper. Whatever you choose. Choose quickly. Arrows drew back. The forest held its breath, and in that frozen heartbeat, the Vulpine girl realized her war was no longer just about survival. It was about loyalty. It was about truth. It was about which side of history she would stand on. The arrows glowed faintly in the moonlight, their steel tips aimed directly at her chest. Shadows of Vulpine warriors moved between the trees, silent and merciless. These were not strangers. They were her people, faces she knew, voices she had once laughed with as a child. Now those voices carried only death. Step away from him. The leader barked, his cloak fluttering in the cold wind. His ears were tall, his eyes sharp like ice. She knew that voice. Her older cousin, Darian. Her claws dug into the cracked stone. Darian had carried her on his shoulders when she was little. He had sworn to protect her. And now he was the one ready to end her life. Ryan stood beside her, calm but ready. His eyes scanned the ruin, measuring distances, counting foes. 10 warriors, 5 bows, 5 blades. Too many, even for him. He leaned close, his whisper steady. If you move to me, they fire. If you move away, they still fire. Your cousin has already decided, her heart twisted. They'll listen. No, Ryan cut her off. They came to silence witnesses. And they'll call you traitor for being with me. Her ears flattened. She wanted to scream, to beg Darian to remember her, but his bowstring tightened, and the sound was louder than any words she could speak. On my mark, Darian ordered. Loose! Her world froze. Then Ryan moved. He shoved her down as the first arrow flew. It grazed his arm, tearing blood across his sleeve. Another arrow struck the stone beside her, sparks flying. She scrambled to her knees, her voice breaking. Darian, stop! It's me! For a heartbeat, the bow lowered. His eyes flicked to her face, recognition softening the edge. Then his jaw hardened again. You stand with a butcher, Darian spat. You've lost your honor. Her chest ached. No, he saved me. He killed our people, Darian roared. Do you not see the blood on his hands? She turned to Ryan. He said nothing. He didn't deny it. His silence was louder than any scream. The warriors surged forward. Blades flashed. Ryan pulled her behind a pillar, his fist slamming into the first attacker's jaw. Bone cracked. A blade slashed past his ribs. He twisted, catching the wrist and snapping it in one motion. She cried out. Stop, please. But there was no stopping. This was no fight. This was family tearing itself apart. Darian charged, his blade raised. She moved before she could think, her body acting on its own. Her dagger rose to block. Metal clashed, sparks lit the night. Her cousin's eyes widened. He hadn't expected her to stand against him. Move, he snarled, or I'll cut you down with him. Tears burned her eyes. Then cut me, she whispered. For the first time, Darian hesitated. The weight of blood held him back, but the others didn't. One lunged at Ryan, blade arcing. Ryan countered, his elbow smashing into the warrior's throat. Another arrow whizzed past, nearly striking the girl. She screamed. Stop, you're killing us all. Her voice echoed through the ruins. For a moment, everything slowed. The warriors froze, torn between duty and blood. Ryan's chest heaved, his fists stained red. The girl's dagger trembled in her hand. Then Darian lowered his blade. His voice was cold but heavy. "You've chosen your side," he whistled sharply. The other warriors pulled back, melting into the trees. Their eyes still burned with hatred, but they obeyed. Soon only Darian remained, his gaze locked on her. "You're no longer one of us," he said quietly. "When the elders hear of this, they will mark your name in ash. You will be hunted, girl. You and your human." Her heart broke. "Darian, please." But he was gone, swallowed by the forest. The silence after was worse than the fight. The air smelled of blood and betrayal. She dropped her dagger, her hands shaking. Her cousin's words echoed inside her chest like poison. "No longer one of us." She sank to her knees, her tail curled tight, her ears drooping. Tears blurred her vision. Everything she knew, her family, her people, her home, was slipping away like sand through her fingers. Rian crouched beside her. His voice was calm, but softer than before. "You made your choice." Her voice cracked. "I lost everything." "No," he said firmly. "You found something else." She looked up at him, her face streaked with tears. "What?" "Freedom." The word struck like a blade. Freedom. Was that what this was? To be cut from her family, her people, her land, to walk beside a human hated by both sides? Her chest ached. She wanted to reject it. She wanted to believe she could still go back. But in her heart, she knew Darian was right. There was no going back. Ryan stood, his figure framed by the moonlight. He offered her his hand. For a long moment, she stared at it. Then slowly she took it. He pulled her to her feet, steadying her. His grip was warm, strong. For the first time, she didn't pull away. The forest wind whispered through the ruins. It sounded like voices, old and broken. She shivered. "What?" Now Ryan's eyes were sharp but distant, like he was seeing something far away. "Now we move. They won't stop hunting us, not your people, not theirs. If we stay still, we die." Her tail flicked. "And if we keep running?" His lips curved into a faint, bitter smile. "Then maybe we start a war of our own." Her breath caught. A war of their own? Just the two of them against armies and empires? It sounded impossible. But as she looked at him, this man who had fought machines, beasts, and her own kin, she felt something stronger than fear. She felt the fire of defiance. And in that moment, she realized the war wasn't just unexpected anymore. It was personal. The night stretched on like an endless wound. The ruin behind them was silent, but the girl's heart still echoed with Darian's words. No longer one of us. Every step away from that place felt heavier. Her chest ached as if she had buried her family with her own hands. She walked close behind Ryan, her dagger hanging loose at her side. The moonlight turned the forest into a labyrinth of silver and black. Finally, she spoke, her voice breaking the silence. "They'll come again. My people. His people. Everyone. We're enemies to all." Ryan didn't look back. His voice was steady, as always. "That's when we stop running." She frowned. "Stop? Against armies? Against machines?" He finally turned, his eyes catching the faint light. "I've seen wars collapse from within. Soldiers fight because someone tells them to. Break the chain, and the army crumbles." She didn't understand, not fully. But the calm in his voice made her chest tighten. He wasn't dreaming. He believed. Before she could ask more, a low hum spread through the trees. The leaves shook, the ground trembled, her ears snapped upright. "They're here." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Not your people this time." The glow of machines spread through the forest, pale lights scanning like hungry eyes. Tall steel walkers stomped closer, their cannons glowing, their lenses searching. Behind them came armored troops, their voices mechanical. The girl froze. How did they find us so fast? Ryan's eyes narrowed. "Because they never lost me." Her blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "I told you," he said grimly. "I was one of them. I broke their orders. I ran. But they don't forgive deserters. They've been hunting me since the day I turned my back. Her tail lashed. Then saving me. Made you a target too. Before she could answer, the first machine fired. A beam tore through the trees, blasting a crater where they had stood seconds before. Ryan shoved her down, rolling them both behind a fallen trunk. Run, he barked. They darted through the forest, beams scorching the ground behind them. Branches shattered, the air filled with smoke and fire. She stumbled, but Ryan pulled her up again and again, his grip never failing. They reached a ridge overlooking a valley. Below lay an old camp abandoned long ago. Torn tents, broken carts, ashes from fires long cold. Ryan's eyes scanned the ruins. Down there, he said. They slid into the valley, taking cover among the wreckage. But the machines didn't stop. The armored soldiers spread out, their red visors glowing like demons. Ryan crouched low, his voice sharp. They won't stop. Not unless we give them something. Her ears twitched. Give them what? He looked at her, his eyes harder than stone. Me. Her throat closed. No. They're after me, he said. Not you. If I draw them off, you can escape. Go south, past the rivers. You'll find freedom. Tears blurred her vision. You can't fight them alone. I can slow them. That's enough. She grabbed his arm, her claws digging in. You saved me, you fought for me, don't you dare leave me now. For the first time, his expression cracked. His jaw trembled, his eyes softer. But before he could reply, a voice thundered across the valley. Ryan! The girl's ears flattened. That voice, it wasn't mechanical, it was human. A figure stepped forward from the soldiers. His armor gleamed brighter than the rest, gold markings across the chest. His helmet retracted, revealing a scarred face with cold gray eyes. Ryan's fists clenched. Commander Hale. The girl looked between them, her chest tightening. You know him? Ryan's voice was low, full of venom. He was my commander, the one who taught me how to kill. Hale's laugh was bitter. And my finest soldier turned coward. Do you know how many villages burned because you refused one order? The girl's eyes widened. Because he refused? Hale sneered. Yes. He was told to finish the job. He spared one town, a small mercy. But mercy spreads like fire. Rebels rose. Your people dared resist. All because he couldn't pull a trigger. Her heart raced. She turned to Ryan. Is it true? His eyes didn't leave Hale. Yes. I spared them. I couldn't watch children burn. Her throat tightened. Mercy. A single choice. That was why the war had exploded. That was why her village had been destroyed. Because one man had chosen not to kill. Hale raised his hand. Soldiers aimed their weapons. I'll give you one chance, Ryan. Return, kneel, put the chain back on, or we bury you here. The silence was crushing. The girl's claws dug into her palms. She whispered, Don't. Ryan's gaze never wavered. His voice was steady. I'd rather die free. The first shots exploded. Ryan tackled her behind a cart as beams tore the ground apart. The valley erupted in fire. Soldiers advanced, machines closing in. He turned to her, voice sharp. Listen, we can't win this fight, but we can break it. She shook her head. How? He pointed to the largest machine, its cannon glowing brighter than the rest. That's their core. Take it down and the others falter. Her heart pounded. We can't reach it. His eyes burned. We have to. The ground shook as the machine prepared to fire again. Ryan's hand grabbed hers, his voice a whisper only she could hear. Stay close. Trust me. And then they moved. They burst from cover, sprinting across the valley as beams scorched the ground around them. Ryan weaved through fire like a ghost, pulling her with him. Soldiers shouted, chasing, but he was always one step ahead. The cannon charged, light blazing like a second sun. The girl raised her dagger, useless against such power, but her grip tightened anyway. Ryan's voice roared above the chaos. Now! They leapt together straight toward the machine's heart. The roar of the machine's cannon filled the valley. Light burned across the night, brighter than the moon, hotter than the sun. The ground shook as if the world itself was about to split. Ryan and the Vulpine girl leapt together, shadows against the blaze. Her dagger gleamed weakly in her hand, nothing compared to the steel giant before them. But she held it tight anyway, because he told her to trust him. The cannon fired. Ryan twisted midair, pulling her against his chest. The blast tore past them, scorching the ruins behind. They landed hard on the machine's frame, metal groaning under their weight. Sparks flew, gears screamed. "Climb!" Ryan barked. She scrambled upward, claws digging into the steel, her tail lashing for balance. Ryan moved faster, fists smashing into panels, tearing wires loose. The machine staggered, its lens swiveling toward them. A soldier below shouted, "Take them down!" Beams of fire streaked the air. One seared across her arm. She cried out, nearly slipping. Ryan caught her wrist, his grip iron. His voice was sharp, commanding, but not unkind. "Hold on!" She nodded through gritted teeth, pushing higher. Her claws reached the glowing core, pulsing with light. It was larger than her chest, humming with deadly energy. Ryan climbed beside her, his face set, his jaw tight. "Strike here." "The dagger, now!" She hesitated. "This won't work." "Trust me," he growled. She raised the dagger high. With a cry that tore from her soul, she plunged it into the core. The world exploded. Light burst outward, searing the sky. The machine convulsed, its limbs jerking like a dying beast. Energy screamed through the valley, knocking soldiers off their feet. The other machines staggered, their lights flickering, their cannons silenced. The Vulpine girl was thrown back, falling, until Ryan's arm wrapped around her, pulling her against him. They crashed to the ground together as the giant collapsed in a heap of fire and steel. Smoke choked the air. Silence followed, heavy and broken. The girl coughed, her ears ringing. She forced her eyes open. Soldiers were scattered, machines crumbling, and in the center of the ruin, Commander Hale stood, his armor scorched but unbroken. His gray eyes locked on Ryan. Fury burned like fire. "You think one act of defiance changes anything?" Hale's voice cut through the smoke. "You've only delayed the inevitable. The Empire will rise again, and your little fox girl will die screaming like the rest." The girl's claws curled. Her body ached, but rage gave her strength. She stepped forward, tail high, ears flat. "I'm not your pet, and I'll never kneel." Hale sneered. "Then you die first." He raised his blade. The girl froze, her dagger shattered, her body trembling. She was ready to face death, but Ryan stepped in front of her. His voice was steady. "No, she lives." Hale laughed, bitter and cruel. "You against me?" Ryan's fists tightened. "Not against, with." Then he charged. The clash was thunder. Hale's blade met Ryan's fists in sparks. Each strike shook the ground. Hale was faster, stronger, fueled by fury and steel. But Ryan moved with precision, every motion honed by years of war. The girl watched, helpless, heart racing. She wanted to help, but her body screamed with exhaustion. All she could do was pray. Pray to God she no longer believed in, that Ryan would not fall. Hale's blade slashed across Ryan's chest. Blood sprayed. The girl cried out, but Ryan didn't fall. He drove forward, his fist smashing into Hale's jaw. The commander staggered, his armor dented. For the first time, fear flickered in his eyes. Ryan's voice roared like thunder. "This ends tonight." With a final strike, he grabbed Hale's blade arm, twisted and drove the weapon back into its master's chest. Hale gasped, his gray eyes wide. Then he collapsed, armor clanging against the dirt. Silence. The girl's knees gave out. She crawled to Ryan, her hands trembling. Blood soaked his chest, his breath shallow. "No," she whispered, tears streaming. "Stay with me, please." His eyes met hers, weak but steady. "You're stronger than you think." "Don't say goodbye," she begged. "Not now." A faint smile touched his lips. "I'm not saying goodbye. I'm saying fight. For both of us." She pressed her forehead to his, her tears mixing with his blood. Her tail curled tight around him as if she could hold him to life. Then, shouts echoed across the valley. Not enemy voices. Not soldiers. Her ears twitched. Her people. Dozens of Vulpine rebels rushed in, weapons raised. Among them was Darian, her cousin. His eyes widened as he saw her kneeling over Ryan, the broken machines around them, Hale's body still and lifeless. The rebels stopped, stunned. Darian whispered, "You did this?" The girl rose slowly, her face streaked with tears, her body trembling. She looked at her cousin, her people, her blood. For the first time, she didn't feel small before them. She felt like fire. Her voice rang clear. "Yes, with him. And I'll keep fighting until none of us are chained again." The silence stretched. Then one by one the rebels dropped to their knees. Not in fear, but in respect. Darian's voice broke. "You've become more than family. You've become hope." Her chest tightened. She looked down at Rian, still breathing, still alive. Relief flooded her. He had given her more than life. He had given her the strength to defy. The war was not over. The Empire still loomed. But tonight, in this valley of ashes, a spark had been lit. A human deserter. A Vulpine girl once called Pet. Together they had done the impossible. And as the wind carried smoke into the stars, she whispered to herself, to him, and to the world that was listening, "This is not the end. This is the beginning."